Friends, thank you for joining us. It is time to continue in our reading of the book of Esther. We'll be resuming tonight at chapter 2, verse 8. So here's the big picture. And this is from showing the Greek version of Esther. Remember, there is a Greek version, there is a Hebrew version. Everything that is in the Hebrew is in the Greek, but not everything that is in the Greek is in the Hebrew. And so we are doing a hybrid reading of both, reading the portions from the Jewish Bible, from the complete Jewish Bible that are in the Hebrew scriptures, and reading the apocryphal parts, the Greek editions from the Common English Bible. I think tonight we're only going to be in a portion that is from the Jewish Bible. There is a Greek edition coming after chapter 3, verse 13. We're resuming at chapter 2, verse 8. I'm a little skeptical as to whether or not we are going to get that far. We'll see. If by some chance we do, well, then we'll go ahead and take a quick moment to switch over and read from the Greek version. But for now, we're going to start off at least from the Hebrew with the complete Jewish Bible in the left-hand column, the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition in the right-hand column, using this mostly to explain things that don't quite sound familiar. Like, well, interesting thing in this book is in Christian versions of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures, the king of Persia is Ahasuerus. In the apocryphal texts, in the Greek version, his name is Artaxerxes, and in the Hebrew Bible, his name is Achashverosh. So there's a little bit of variety just there. So back here to the big picture. Chapters 1 and 2, the greatness of the king of Persia. And the process of Esther becoming queen in place of Vashti. Vashti, who disobeyed the command of her husband, the king, and the last we heard, she was to be wife and queen no more, and someone else was to be presented to step into those offices of the queen and the wife of the king of Persia. Chapter 2, verse 8. Let me pull up the timer real quick and then we'll get a good grasp on where exactly we are in this process of transition from Vashti to Esther. Chapter 2, verse 8. Yep. So we've met Esther, Hadassah. That is Esther's Hebrew name, Hadassah. Only even the Hebrew version refers to her as Esther. We don't know a whole lot about her other than the fact that Mordecai has taken her to himself and raised her because her parents are dead. The Hebrew version presents Mordecai as raising Esther as his own daughter. The Hebrew version, cringe, cringe. The Greek version has Mordecai taking Esther not only to raise her, but with the intent to make her his own wife at the proper time. So even in the parts that are in Hebrew that are also in Greek, they don't always match up perfectly. Well, friends, let's read. Good evening again, Mom. Good evening again, Don and Linda. Let's read, friends. Chapter 2, verse 8. And if we get to the end of chapter 3, verse 13, we'll take a brief break, pause the timer for a bit in order to transition over to the Greek edition that comes between chapter 3, verse 13 and chapter 3, verse 14. But I don't know that we'll get that far. Let's read. Verse 8. When the king's order and decree were proclaimed, and many girls assembled in Shushan, Susa, the capital, under the care of Haggai, Esther too was taken into the king's house and put under the care of Haggai, who was in charge of the women. There's a good reason why Haggai is in charge of the women. What do we know about Haggai? He's a eunuch. He's not just any ordinary servant. He is a eunuch and probably has been made a eunuch on purpose. And so he's no threat, no sexual threat. Verse 9, the girl, Esther, the girl pleased him and won his favor, so that he lost no time in giving her her cosmetics, her portions of special food, and 7 girls from the king's palace to attend her. He also promoted her and the girls attending her to the best place in the harem's quarters. Esther did not disclose her people or family ties because Mordecai had instructed her not to tell anyone. And remember, Esther always obeyed Mordecai. Why didn't Esther tell? Why did Esther tell her not to? Why did Mordecai tell Esther not to tell? Well, it wasn't exactly safe. To be a Jew in Susa was not a safe thing. It was not a comfortable thing. Verse 11. Every day Mordecai would walk around in front of the courtyard of the harem's house in order to know how Esther was doing and what was happening to her. Each girl had her turn to appear before King Ahasuerus after she had undergone the full 12-month preparation period prescribed for the women, consisting of a 6-month treatment with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfumes and other cosmetics for women. Then, when the girl went to see the king, whatever she wanted would be given to her as she went from the harem's house to the king's palace. She would go in the evening, and on the following day she would return to another part of the harem's house and be under the care of Shah-Ashgaz, the king's officer in charge of the concubines. Another eunuch. Again, another one who was not a threat sexually. Because by this point now, these women are most certainly the property of the king. They are his concubines. She would not go to the king again unless he was especially pleased with her and had summoned her by name. When the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, whom Mordecai had adopted as his own daughter to appear before the king, she didn't ask for anything other than what Haggai, the king's officer in charge of the harem, advised. Yet Esther was admired by all who saw her. She was brought to King Achashverosh in his royal palace in the 10th month, Tevet, during the 7th year of his reign. The king liked Esther more than any of his wives. Yes, concubines are wives. Remember that. None of the other virgins obtained such favor and approval from him. So he put the royal crown on her head and made her queen in place of Vashti. The king then gave a great banquet in Esther's honor for all his officers and servants, decreed a holiday for the provinces, and distributed gifts worthy of royal bounty. So we have a new queen, Esther. And the king has a whole new circle of wives, but Esther stands out among them. He may have many wives, but he only has one queen. Verse 18. No, we read verse 18. Notice how many banquets there are in this book, by the way. We're in chapter 2, and this is the second, at least. Verse 19. When the girls would gather on other occasions, Mordecai would sit at the king's gate. Esther had not yet revealed her family ties or her people, as Mordecai had ordered her, for Esther continued obeying what Mordecai told her to do, as she had when he was raising her. On one of those occasions, when Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, two of the king's officers, Bigtan and Teresh, from the group in charge of the private entryways, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Achashverosh. But Mordecai learned about it and told Esther the queen. Esther reported it to the king, crediting Mordecai. The matter was investigated, found to be true, and both were hanged on a stake. All this was recorded in the daily journal that was kept with the king. That's an incredibly significant moment. Remember that. Mordecai tells Esther, Esther tells the king, but tells the king that Mordecai was the one who made it known, and it was recorded as such. That is going to be huge in this story. Chapter 3. Sometime later, King Achashverosh began to single out Haman, the son of Hamdata, the Agagite. Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, for advancement. Eventually, he gave him precedence over all his fellow officers. All the king's servants at the king's gate would kneel and bow down before Haman, because the king had so ordered. But Mordecai would neither kneel nor bow down to him. The king's servants at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why don't you obey the king's order?" But after they had confronted him a number of times without his paying attention to them, they told Haman, in order to find out whether Mordecai's explanation that he was a Jew would suffice to justify his behavior. Haman was furious when he saw that Mordecai was not kneeling and bowing down to him. However, on learning what people Mordecai belonged to, it seemed to him a waste to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Rather, he decided to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole of Ahasuerus's kingdom. Haman is the villain in this story, in case you hadn't figured that out yet. And Haman now, whose ego is larger than that of the Persian Empire, which was a vast empire, is determined to get revenge not only on Mordecai, but on all Jews. We'll pick up next time that we pick up Esther at chapter 3, verse 7, and we will get to the Greek edition because we're just verses away from the next one. But here we are. Haman has been elevated, and we will start transitioning into the decree to kill the Jews. We're not quite there yet, but we are on our way there quickly. Thank you for reading with us. Good evening, Cheryl. Good evening, Anthony. Peace be with you, friends.